You're watching the Desert Moon Hockey Podcast with Matt and Rich.
Welcome back to episode, did Joe Vitale wear 26? Joel Perreault? Episode 26 of the Desert Moon Hockey Podcast. Of course, I am the Coyotes nerd that knows all, until Richie laughs in my face. Go ahead, Richie.
There was a right-handed defenseman that we had a few weeks back that we were talking about that wore 26.
I do remember that. It's funny, I was rehearsing that in the car at work when I was delivering parts, and I'm like, oh, Michael Stone.
Yep.
I am going to feel dumb.
Yep.
I thought you were going to say Perreault wore like 28 or something. I like Joel Perreault more than Michael Stone, but that's a whole different thing. Richie.
Yep.
We have some business to conduct first.
Yes.
And you're going to need to start learning how to apologize. We were a little bit inaccurate last episode, so Richie seemed mistaken about the politician, individual person's relationship at all with the city of Tempe. There isn't. She's just a state representative and an idiot. So I apologize for not asking questions. It was a very small mistake, and I appreciate the couple of DMs and comments we got trying to keep us as accurate as possible. This is why I like our community, because they're not like, hey, idiot. They're just like, oh, no, they'll correct you. I'll get DMs on Twitter, and it's like, I like you guys. You guys make sure to keep us up if we're just faltering a little bit.
Well, my apologies. I did not know that. To be fair, it's a little bit difficult to pay attention to Tempe council members because I don't live in Tempe. I live right next door in Phoenix. So that is my bad. I did not know that. I operate on the surface level. That should be known by everybody by now. But my information still stands on the whole. Glendale did not honor their agreement. I will still say that information was correct, but as for her position, I am incorrect. I did know that there were two contrarians on the Tempe board when they were trying to get the negotiations started. One has since left office because of the term limit. I thought that the other one was this individual, so I'm wrong. I'm wrong, but yeah.
It feels really good for me not to be the one that's wrong for once, because normally it's like, hey, idiot.
Take the L's. I did want to say too, before we get into it, this is episode 26. You also had another 26 that was worn this year. Well, not this upcoming year, but previous year. Mr. Forgettable. Anton Rooster Roussel also wore 26.
Oh. Well, I don't really care much for Roussel. Nothing against you personally, but I just kind of forgot you're on the team. You and Joseph Beagle.
Yep, those three from Vancouver did not do all that much last year, but that was to be expected.
King Louis did a lot. He went out there. He could have easily just said, "No, I'm not going to that garbage organization." You know what he did? He put his shoes on 1 foot at a time. He came into the office, head up, professional, and went out there and he skated. He skated.
He did get his silver stick with us too, as well. So there's that.
Anyway, so. Do you want to do a little bit of a fun topic and a little calling our shot prediction before we get into the actual main topics, or do you want to say, hey Matt, quit being stupid at the start of our episodes?
Well, I always like to pull out the dummy hammer and start pounding, so I'm gonna let you just speak for yourself.
All right, so let's talk very briefly about the manufactured controversy. We've also been a part of it, and I'm very proud that we're a part of it, of the Auston Matthews leaving Toronto thing. And Leafs Twitter has been getting funnier and funnier by the week.
Oh, yes.
And you had to have seen the tweet where it's like, the more that these rumors persist, the more obnoxious Leafs fans are going to be when he resigns. And I'm like, lol, you think he's resigning?
Yep.
If the Leafs don't make it out of the first round this year, he is not re-signing. And then by the time it's time to try to get rid of him, he'll have a full no-move clause, and he'll only waive for wherever he wants to go, meaning good luck maximizing your value or just walking him into free agency. So let's do some predictions. Because I had a funny prediction by an account that got super mad that I was in his mentions once. And it was pretty much like TLDR. He's going to sign the maximum maximum contract you can sign in the NHL on Canada Day. So I'm like, okay, that's going to age poorly. I think here's exactly what's going to happen. This entire season, he'll get asked about it at least once or twice a month. Nothing will ever come out of it. The Leafs faithful will get very arrogant, and then as soon as they're bounced from the first round in 5 games, he is going to put in an official trade request within 30 days of that happening, and the meltdown will be phenomenal. I hope it's not LA, because I don't like LA, but if LA would assist us in creating this meltdown, I'll allow it. Yeah. So that's my official prediction. He's going to request a trade, meltdown. I don't care where he goes from there. Arizona's the meme. I really don't care either way, but that's my official prediction. I'm calling my shot Babe Ruth style.
Do you think that Toronto turns on him after all he's done? If this hypothetical were to play through?
If he at least lets them know at that 1 year advance, they will turn on him for about half a decade. If he waits until the last second like Johnny Hockey, he will be a Voldemort-type name in Toronto for at least 10 years. And if he re-signs, well, you already know how they're going to react.
Yeah. I do know that we had a little bet that went on a few years back about one Auston Matthews. And I said if he were to sign with the Coyotes, I think you'd be getting me an Auston Matthews jersey. And if he did not, Matt would get to make a jersey of his choice. So I the one stipulation to that was I wasn't going to buy some crazy vintage thing off of eBay. I'm not doing that.
Yeah, that would be stupid. It has to be like a current jersey so you can get it at retail price.
Yes. So, man, it's going to be real interesting seeing how this year's playoffs play out, because if there's another first-round bounce, I very realistically could see some anger coming out of Auston Matthews with the lack of success, shall we say.
Dude, all I know is that it's going to be so fun to watch Toronto have to go through another rebuild, even though my mindset is, honestly, if they get bounced this year in the playoffs anyway, before the no-move kicks in, I would look at moving Matthews regardless if you can't move Tavares, because you need to move, in my opinion, at least $10 million out so you can make necessary improvements. Because I keep saying how great the team's going to be, how this minor defensive player or this brand new, very much used Matt Murray coming in is going to save the franchise. And it's look, you need a lot more fixing, and that comes with cap space. And they keep saying, oh, it's such a boring argument. You're paying 3 forwards $10+ million a year. That's not sustainable if you're only paying for the equivalent of your first line premium assets and nothing else you really have money for. It's they need to get rid of one of those top 2 contracts. As good as Marner is, I don't know if he would have the value you'd be looking for. And Tavares, I think that would be the most likely, because you'd want to keep Matthews. He's younger. Mm-hmm. But they need to move at least one of those 3 contracts. I'm assuming it would be Matthews, because he would essentially threaten that he's not going to re-sign, so you need to get value out of him, or Tavares. And it would be good to see the Leafs be good. But I think it's funnier when they're not, or they're just good enough to get the hype, and then they just go the way of the dodo. And I really wish I would have been watching TSN on the day we got the news of the Queen of England's passing, because I really wanted to hear someone say, how does that affect the Leafs?
What was that second part? Sorry, on my end, I'm losing you for a second there.
You're losing me. All right, yeah. So I don't know, you probably didn't see the tweet that it's on TSN later today. So how does the Queen's passing affect the Leafs?
Oh, gotcha, yeah. Yeah, seriously. Especially with freaking, if it was Leafsnet, that is all they talk about.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was about to say, I think we should talk about your hot takes.
My hot takes?
About one contract that has not been fulfilled yet.
Barret Hayton greedy confirmed?
Question mark, exclamation
Hayton, not
point.
A team player? Oh my god. Let's have a little bit of fun with this one. All right.
Yes.
I thought that would be a pretty good way to intro the episode, but we got way off track. So I got this nice little, you're going to hear a click. I'm going to try to talk over it. Craig Morgan unlocked this article for us on GoPHNX. I was subscribed for the month because it was cheap, but then I stopped being subscribed. Talks a little bit about Jacob Chikrin. TLDR, every single time they talk about this kid, I'm like, so he's gone, right? Like, he's gone. But they talk about Barret Hayton, and I kind of want to read a little bit of what he had to say because it's pretty much confirmed one of my concerns. And he's like, quote, "We're in a staring contest." Yeah. Part of the player, Barret is a great player, someone we really like. It's just doing business, working with his agency, trying to get it done. It's one of those things kind of dragged out. It's unfortunate. We'd like to have everything wrapped up at this point, but at the same time, everybody thinks we have a massive amount of money in the salary cap. And then the rest of the quote really doesn't matter. We might leave a link if Richie remembers. If not, go PHNX. It'll pretty much be right there when the episode goes up, maybe a day and a half late. Right there. Like, he pretty much, like, you didn't even need that for me to be like, oh, so you literally just said trying to work with his agency, so he probably wants more than you're comfortable with paying him. Whether you're undervaluing him or he's overvaluing himself, it doesn't matter. It's a money thing. At that point, you just straight up said it. And then when he like, elaborates just a little bit, oh, everyone thinks we have a ton in cap to spend. I'm like, so he wants more than you think he's worth. Like, he wants more. And that almost makes me think my little, like, EA contract prediction. What was it, like? It was like 5x5 or whatever I said it was. Like, it was like $5 million a year. I'm like, do you think that that's actually what they're asking for, or do you think it's maybe just a little bit higher than maybe what you're predicting?
I have no clue. You know, is it just like a difference of $500K, or is it a difference of a few million, right? Because if it is just a few $500K, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me with how Armstrong operates. He's very, like, he sticks to his price and he's not budging, right? We've seen that with trades and things like that. So it could be the same with contracts, right? He sticks to his price and he's not budging. I mean, Lawson Krause almost went to arbitration, and that's never good. I think the stat is like 80% of players that go to arbitration are no longer on the same team after 2 years or something like that. So, yeah, like, you never want to end up in arbitration, and he was very close. So, I don't know. It's interesting. Obviously, Hayton doesn't have arbitration rights. So I guess he can just hold out as long as he wants. I don't think that's a good thing for his career, though. I think if he holds out, that could almost be kind of a death sentence for his career. Ultimately, it is what it is. If you're talking about a difference of, a few $100K, like, Barret Hayton ultimately hasn't really proved himself to be worthy of big-time money. That's just kind of the truth. If he really does believe in himself, then kick the can down the road, take the whatever they're offering for 1 year, and prove it this year. Say, no, I am worth $4 million. I am worth $5 million. I don't know if it. 5 is a lot, man. That is a lot for a player who has been consistently injured and not, lived up to the 5th overall pick expectation just yet.
Yeah, I'll even recall like a paraphrase of what I said when I threw that out there. It's more of like I wouldn't mind it from a gambling perspective, like shoot the dice. But at the same time, if they're also not comfortable with that, I do have faith in what Armstrong's doing. Now, if I had to guess something, I think he has to be asking for at least $3 million. Like, that's just my guess. No sources. I'm not like BFFs with a coach or something. Like, I don't know anything. But like, you'd think if it was around $1.5-2 million, it would already get done, and they would just say, hey, if it was a 2-year contract, bump it down to 1. If it was a 3, bump it down to 2. Like, you think they make a compromise somewhere. Yeah. But the fact that it's still going, my gut is saying he's asking for $3 million plus. Again, no source. So I want to make sure no one's acting like I think I know what I'm talking about. So, like, that probably not the greatest look, especially since as good as I think he's been, there has been consistent improvement. He still isn't exactly that much better than Zadina. And I got a question, like, how come they didn't just do a Zadina contract? I don't know. I think it was last night on the stream. Like, I have no idea. I think Peyton might be better. Because I think you said, he did the same stats in, like, 20 fewer games. So he's probably
something
better
like
overall
that.
Production. So
and he's a center, and Zadina's a wing, right? So there's a difference there as well. And if there is one thing that Barret is, he's pretty defensively responsible. At least he's been projected to be defensively responsible. I still knock him for some plays that he caused. I believe it was last year that I did not like. I think it was Wayne Simmons. I think he took a hit from Wayne Simmons, lost the puck in the neutral zone, went for a line change. Wayne Simmons walks in and like snipes it. I remember that play, and I was just like, dude, that is an absolute mess up. Like, you can't just turn the puck over and go, oh, somebody else's problem. Go chase him down. I'm line changing. You know, like, it was a really bad play by him defensively there. So there's still like a lot to learn from him on his end. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to speculate, but it's just a holding pattern right now. It's just whoever blinks first.
I'm still going to stand by. Wait, let me get the note out, because we did our official predictions. So Richie's official prediction for what he's going to sign for is 3 years, 2.25 a year. Mine is 2 years at 1.5. Mainly because I'm like, look, I know he has that pedigree, which it might put him closer to the $2 million, but it's also consistently injured, hasn't taken full advantage of the opportunities he has gotten, which is going to be a knock against him. It's going to hurt him.
Yep.
So it's like, that's why I think that's probably what they end up doing, and it's a shorter contract, especially to compensate. So it's like, for buying up a couple of years, I'm probably going to pay a little bit more, but we're not going to like get the discount of getting 8 years or something. So I don't like the situation.
I will say, if he's going to try to play a staring match with Armstrong, I don't think he's going to win. Armstrong has so many centermen that he's pulled in over this offseason, and now with Alex Chason on a PTO, he has even more veteran presence that he can sign potentially if Hayton were to hold out. Like, I don't really see it being a winning fight for Hayton. I really don't. So, you know, I'm not saying just keel over and take it. Obviously, like, if you want your value, your self-worth, like, you want to show that you value yourself, obviously. But you know, find that agreement. If it's like, oh, I'm asking $2.5 million, and they're saying, you know, 1.5, well, let's meet at $2 million. Like, try to figure out what that middle ground is.
At the very least, it sounds like his agent is either really, really good at his job, or probably one of the ballsiest dudes out there for playing hardball this much with a kid that has no arbitration rights and really doesn't have a whole lot of leverage behind him. Like, the only leverage you have is the 5th overall pick, and then a couple highlight plays last year, and even then he didn't do it enough. There wasn't a big enough sample size for them to be worth that much. It's going to be interesting how this ends. If he's not signed by training camp, I could very realistically see him being traded. I think I might have said that in the last pod or the pod before, but I could very realistically see it if he's not signed by training camp.
I don't know what he would even get you, though. That's the hard part, because he has, pick-wise, really high value. 5th overall pick. He was the 2nd highest center in that draft, behind Kaki and Niemi. You're right. There's a lot of like pedigree there from the draft perspective, but like, if you actually go and you're trying to trade him, what are you doing? Are you taking reclamation project for reclamation project? Are you trading him for picks, right? Like, I don't really see him fetching a first, maybe a late first, but like a 2nd and a 3rd. Like, I don't know. I don't see him predicting like, oh yeah, we'll give you like a 15th overall pick for him. I don't see that being the case at all. He hasn't earned that yet.
I have to agree and slightly disagree, but not like against the idea. I think if you go to a team, first thing comes to mind is Washington. Maybe you might just get there first regardless because they can use the center depth. The problem is, would they actually be desperate enough to just throw it around? Because some teams are. Some teams are definitely, hey, there's trouble brewing over here. If I just throw a first-round pick, literally, this goes away. So like, literally, it's done.
So the one that I was thinking about in my head just now was there's that one player from New York that not the defenseman that we heard isn't reporting to camp, but the other one, the Russian player. Mm-hmm. What is it, Vitaly Kravtsov?
Oh, Kravtsov, who signed that 1-year extension, and everyone's like, "Oh, they're gonna give him his ice time," and I'm like, "Look at the roster. I don't see where he's getting the ice time."
Yeah, so that was just my thought process. Maybe you take like reclamation project for reclamation project.
Maybe a team like Colorado wants a little extra center depth, and they're willing to part with a first. Or, I mean, we're not.
I don't think they have any.
That ship has sailed.
I think they've given all theirs away.
Yeah, but remember, Bill Armstrong likes getting first-round picks 5 years down the line, because you never know when you can use an extra first-round pick.
That is very true.
McKinnon for Hayton 1-for-1 because they don't want to pay McKinnon. It's not happening. They're going to resign him in like a week.
And from what we're hearing, he's going to be taking over $10 million.
I love that goal. You saw the quote where I was like, "Oh, it's not going to be single digits." And the hockey guy was making fun of it. Oh yeah, of course he's not going to sign him for $10. But it's like, of course McKinnon, who I don't think he should be making more than like McDavid, because the one of the rumored numbers I heard was just a speculation number, and it was like higher than McDavid's making. I'm like, McKinnon's not better than McDavid, but he's gonna take home at least $11 million. Like he's not doing the super team friendly thing again after this one. No, he's making some big boy money when this one comes up.
Yeah, I think that he'll still be relatively team friendly, but he is not going to be sub 10 million. That is for sure.
All right. Do you have any closing thoughts on Hayton? Any other things you want to talk Coyotes? Or are we getting into that prospect game?
What other news was there? Just yeah, I think it's just the prospect stuff up next. So we are recording this a little early. We're recording this on Saturday noonish time. This will be out Sunday. So we're not going to see game 2 of the prospect game. Hopefully it's a little bit better than the first game. You want to get into what went down on the first game?
Well, first and foremost, I think Jack McBain threw the body around really well. I liked what I saw out of him. He's also pretty much a man among boys. Your boy Nathan Smith had himself a hell of a game. I know you'll want to elaborate on that in a little bit.
Yeah.
I started watching. I want to peek at my notes real quick to get the exact time stamp, because that's how pedantic I am. 16:25 into the first period. They're already down 1-0. I think it was only one power play they had given up, and that was the goal. Came on the power play. Vegas' goalie played really well.
Yeah.
There was a couple of really good setups by McBain and Smith, respectively, setting up guys in front of the net, and they just couldn't capitalize.
And a breakaway.
Especially throughout the third. Oh, that breakaway was really good. The third period, Vegas had a stick in every lane, and it was just sloppy passing, couldn't really get much together. Other than the second period, where they were really, like, they started jamming back, they were getting some good offensive pressures, they looked really bad. Liam Kirk, I barely knew he was out there. I mistook him for another player, because that's how little he was out there, or at least the presence he was out there. I liked Geeky, a couple plays he had where he was getting ready to rip one for a one-timer, but he also made a couple extra passes he shouldn't have. He got knocked off the puck relatively easily a couple of times, where it's like, I know it's like your first game in the Yotes sweater, and I know some kids take it seriously, some kids don't, because there's a prospect game. I still want to see a little more, because my mindset, it kind of brings me to P.O. Joseph, and this isn't going against Geeky himself, just the concept. P.O. Joseph is my first training camp and rookie camp. I was covering the team, and he looked terrible against other rookies, and I'm like, these guys should be on your level, if not a little bit below you, if you've been developing with an NHL team for a couple of years. I'm like, this kid's not that good. So I'm like, I don't want to be saying that about Kirk, about Geeky, about any of these kids. So that's why I'm like, I would just like to see a little bit more today in the highlights, and then tomorrow in the last game of the regular, because, man, a couple of these sloppy plays.
Yeah, so to just quickly get into Nathan Smith, I've been pounding the table on that one on this podcast. Is I really do like his work ethic. I do think that he's going to struggle a little bit just not being as big as some of the NHLers. I think Jack McBain, his ceiling floor is a lot better than Nathan Smith's. So I think that, like, if we're going to see somebody almost guaranteed in the NHL, I believe Jack McBain will be over Nathan Smith. But with that being said, Nathan Smith is kind of a lightning in a bottle, and I really like that. I'm all about. I know it sounds a little ridiculous, but I'm all about gambling on prospects. I'm all about gambling on giving them opportunities, because a lot of these players, like, this is kind of the sad truth with the NHL. A lot of players, it ends up being just opportunity. A lot of players who become superstars versus busting, it all comes down to kind of opportunity that you get. It comes down to the coach that you have. It comes down to a lot of that stuff. And seeing the work ethic that Nathan Smith has, I think that Bear is definitely going to like that and appreciate that. Not only in that game did he have both goals for the Coyotes, which were pretty solid goals. I can't remember the first one off the top of my head, but the second one was a nice shot rebound, and he just backhanded the change in. That was a really nice, just solid work ethic goal. But he had like 3 or 4 hits in that game that were, 1 or 2 of them were like actual like knockover hits, but a few of them were against the boards, changing the puck over in the offensive zone, which is like what you want to see from somebody who's hounding the defenseman. So I like what I see from him. I really hope he continues. One thing to note from the first game was that Gunnar was not in that game because he was ill. He was battling a sickness. He is projected to go in tonight's game, which is Saturday for you listening on Sunday. Hopefully we see a little bit more magic, having a really high caliber winger like that can absolutely rip it. I hope that one of the centermen, whether it's Smith or McBain, get to play with him, and we get to see how that goes. Real quick. As for, you're going to know his name, I don't. As for surprises that I saw during this tournament, first game, was the defenseman, number 52.
52, I had his name written down. I knew exactly where we were going.
Yeah.
I almost said Slotty. I think it's a different kid. It is... Where is this?
But just some of the plays that he was doing, holding the line, shaking his the person attacking him on the line to get free in the offensive zone to create more space. Really, really good. There was one play where he took a 50-50 risk and lost, trying to keep the puck in the offensive zone. Didn't amount to anything. Luckily, there was some good back pressure by the centerman or maybe one of the wingers, so it didn't amount to anything too bad. But I like to see that. I do like to see it wasn't just he risked it and didn't even make it to the 50-50. It was he took the 50-50 and just lost, which is I'm okay with that. As long as you're gambling and you're hitting that opportunity to 50-50, like jam at the puck, then that's fine. But if you're like, I'm going for it, and then the dude's like, oh, bank off the board, see you later, like, that's when it's like, okay, you can't be gambling like that. You have to at least be able to roll the roulette table. You can't just go drop your money into the trash can. You have to at least get it on the board.
It's the difference between like Prime OEL and Keith Yandel. And it was Lottie. I think it was that kid that we drafted. It was like 4th round or a little bit later this draft, I want to say. And okay. I liked a lot of what he had. I think he was paired with Zuber throughout most of it. That's the kind of kid I wouldn't mind watching with J.J. Moser. I don't know why I almost said Yanis Jerome. But I wouldn't mind seeing him with Moser because Moser's a really good, responsible, kind of stay-at-home defenseman that can also cycle the puck around well, get some good shots on net. That could be an interesting pairing throughout training camp. I'd like to see that. Zuber, I was slightly disappointed with a couple of his point shots. Like I said, not 100% sure if it's just some kids don't take it seriously, just a bad game. But there is Thornton. As good as he's been, I just want to briefly mention this, speaking of like weak point shots, there is this really weak shot from the point. It led to, I think, the third goal, the goal that ended up being the game winner.
Yep.
It goes off of him, and he's sitting there like this. And you can tell he doesn't know where it is, but I could follow that on the camera, and it looked like it was like half NHL speed. And I'm like, so you should theoretically be able to keep track of that if you want to be a higher level goaltender. And he's still just kind of standing there, and then they, bank it in off the rebound. I'm like, dude, that was a goal that is on you. That was one of the few goals that I can say actually was his fault. And I'm like, you were really impressive last training camp. For the most part, pretty good throughout that game. I just, little stuff like that, I want that to be worked on. I want that to be noted and that to just kind of be out there because that was a little embarrassing to watch. I cringed a little bit on that one.
It was definitely deflating, too. You could see the guys definitely let their foot off the gas the second that happened because it wasn't like this is a really good play and the goalie just got beat. It was kind of one of those weird, like, chintzy goals, and you're just like, man, that sucks when the goalie gives up kind of a chintzy goal like that.
And then it was either the tying goal or that goal I was talking. Either the goal we were just talking about was a tying goal, or this one was the tying goal, where it was just after a penalty kill. It was they had 4 good penalty kills in a row after giving up the first goal. It was really good, undisciplined to get that many penalties, by the way, but really good, bounce back. And then as soon as you hit 3 seconds left and the penalty expires, everyone takes their foot off the gas and they score another goal. And I'm like, dude, You had the penalty kill. It was a really good penalty kill. And I know it can kind of wear out the penalty unit if you're taking that many penalties, but again, it's
that was goal number 2.
A little too often of taking the foot off the gas, and it was just, again, rookie tournament. I'm not going to look too deep into it, but I also just want to note this stuff because it also, these are some of the guys that are going to be in charge of developing the prospects, and I want that to be the tightest in the franchise's history right now because it's probably the most crucial time.
Yeah, for sure. That was the second goal that you're talking about where they let it in just after the penalty had expired. But exactly what you're saying about just letting your foot off the gas. They got in too close on the goalie and were able to, I believe, either 5-hole it or go, maybe it was just under one of the armpits. The third goal, I was going to quickly say, it definitely felt like there was obviously a screen in front, and it hits him, and he has no clue where it's sitting. It definitely seems like fundamentally he just needs to kind of learn, when I don't know where it is, instead of scrunching up like this, I need to either butterfly or do something to try to, prevent something that I can't see from going in. If he felt it, maybe he didn't feel it. Maybe it hit a player in front. But if he did feel it, he probably should have butterflied or something like that. Because if it's a rebound, if it's that close to you, it's more likely to go under you than above you. So maybe next time, learning a little bit, just practicing more when he doesn't have that shot that he saw, just butterflying might be a little bit more advantageous.
It also could have been, because I think it was on our right-hand side there, it could have been advantageous to try to hug the nearest post to try to, if there was a rebound around, just get his body in the right position, because if you're about 6 or 7 inches too far forward, that's a lot of real estate for a scorer. So it's just, again, little stuff like that. We're not calling Thornton trash. For whatever reason, if he ever watches this, we still like you. It's just tiny little stuff like this. We have to try to be as honest as possible when we're critiquing.
Yeah, just some things to note. It's just a rookie game, He still looked pretty good, and in Coyotes fashion, they were getting outshot, so, that doesn't help either. So,
where's these shots in the first period? This one actually kind of made me laugh. I probably should have just kept these notes up the entire time. I'm old school. Shots were 5-5 after the first, but it was 18-13 Vegas after the second period. And Vegas controlled.
It didn't help that, it was hard to really focus in on where the puck was when we were staring at the crowd or the roof half the time, but I'm going to throw my shots out there. Yeah, that was a little rough.
So this is a nice little play over in the offensive zone. I want to say it was the late first period, and Jack McBain, he's knocked off the puck. The only reason I knew that was because Bob Hehouse said it, because it felt so. When I was doing broadcast tech in high school, I had a Sony Handycam and a little cheap tripod. It felt like that's what they were operating, and it kept getting stuck. And there's one play later on where they filmed the crowd instead of the Coyotes' defensive zone ball. In this play, you couldn't even see it. It took forever to catch up, and the amount of times it's over in the corner, you don't know what's going on. It's super slow behind. It's filming up. It's filming down. Like, I thought it was just an intern. I was having fun on the stream last night. Just trying, throwing some shots, and then Richie... What did you say to me, Richie?
Okay, so I called him out because my real job has to do with photography, cinematography, and videography. So, like, I very much know what the setups are and what they were using, and it wasn't just some crap setup. So when they moved left and right, you could tell it was very fluid. That's a fluid head for the tripod, which is a pretty expensive upgrade. It's like $200 or $300 for a good one. So they had like some decent gear, and I noticed that the camera kept zooming in and out, so they had some sort of telescopic lens as well with some sort of autofocus, because autofocus was not the greatest. It was every once in a while pulling focus. Yeah, so they had like, it wasn't just a handy cam for like what you're talking about. It was definitely like decent production gear. I'm not going to say it's like high quality stuff, but it's enough to film a rookie game. But the problem was, it seemed like the operator was probably watching the game with their head instead of watching on the monitor, if I were to speculate. Because a lot of times we'd end up at the ceiling or we'd end up at the floor. And yeah, I can understand that maybe you're an operator and you're kind of new, and like, because the stanchion that they were on was pretty close to the ice. So as you're panning, if their play is really close against the neutral zone boards, like maybe you miss some of the play right there, because it's hard to, like, as you're swiping to go down and then back up, but if you're just going left to right, I don't know how you like are like this and that, and oh, we're looking at the goalie over there as the play is on the other side. Yeah, it was... I don't know. I hope they did not pay much for that, because that was a little rough.
You know what was really rough? Because the first link you sent out was the San Jose link. So I'm watching that, and no matter what I did to lower the volume on my monitor, it was just terrible audio quality. That sounded like someone screaming into one of those little headphone mics while doing this. And I'm like, hey, hi, what is this? That's it. You sound like someone on like 2008 Xbox Live, and I'm about to hear some things I can't say anymore.
Yeah, yep.
But no, it's gamer humor. But no, it was super low quality, and I'm like, look, I know it's a meme to say I could do it better, but like, I know exactly what you're talking about when you're watching with your eyes and not the monitor, so you don't catch it right. I could have done that better, and I'm not like great. I have a steady hand, like the handy cams work, but when it comes to that big technology, I'm like, I'm not gonna know how to properly function this thing for a while. Let me just film random stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really not too hard. And there's a method that I call the rubber band technique. I don't know if everybody uses this, but it's one way to get the head to be like fluid as you're going back and forth, like extra fluid. You just like, there's an arm on the tripod that you can like use. Instead of using the arm, you put a rubber band on the arm, and then you guide the thing while holding a rubber band, and it removes all the weird shaky like jerks and stuff, because the rubber band will be pulling. Just fun information for anybody out there who, if you end up using a tripod.
Man, where were you when I was doing stupid skits in high school trying to sell scub?
Well, I was probably also doing stupid skits in high school, to be honest.
Dude, I never learned how to do like the cloning thing, where it's like, it's easy as hell. You just keep the camera stationary and you film yourself doing something on one side, you do all of it, then you film yourself on the other, and you splice it together at like that midpoint. It never showed me how to do it, but I miss using Final Cut Pro. Part of me really wants to overspend for a Mac like computer just so I can use Final Cut Pro again, because I felt like it was a really good editor, but I'm like, do I want to pay $1,000 more than this is worth?
Yeah.
Just so I can use Final Cut Pro.
Yeah. I will tell you, it is not hard. So all that is you just want to make sure your tripod doesn't move. And then you obviously don't want to be really... I've actually never done it. I know how it's done. You just are effectively cropping. So you either are cropping or you're... oh, goodness. I forget the tool. There's a tool for... cutting out part of the frame. I'm masking. Oh, I got it. Whew. I'm an editor, I swear. You use masking as well.
Hey, you know what? We're giving you a little bit of a sneak peek behind the scenes here at the Desert Moon Hockey Podcast. This is not us just trying to get some extra watch time. This is us trying to educate the viewer because
they're talking about.
We love you that much.
They're talking about editing stuff. I'm clicking away. I'm done with this.
All right, Auston Matthews is going to Carolina.
Confirmed.
That gets your attention
you heard
back.
it here.
I swear to God, if that actually happens, I'll have to be a full-time Hurricanes fan.
That will be...
I already like the Hurricanes.
That would be actually crazy. But
all right. What do you think... let's try to do something that I think would actually be a decent topic. What do you think was the overarching goal this offseason? Like, from the full teardown last year to this... What do you think was the goal? Why do you think that was the goal? And do you think they achieved it?
So, I think the ultimate goal was to get more draft picks, right? If you're going to talk about a goal. As for if they achieved it, I don't know. I really don't know. I kind of expected Bill Armstrong to take on more bad contracts to give more cap relief to teams. But we're not seeing it. And I think it's because those teams are realizing that it's going to be a premium price right now. And they're not willing to move it. Which is a little strange because I felt like Cassian moved for not all that much. I feel like it was like, what, a second and a third? Or was it 2 seconds? I don't remember. And like moving up like a few spots. But that's not nearly as important. Yeah, I'm a little surprised, but I felt like that was probably the ultimate goal, was to bring on more bad contracts. And we didn't see really all of that. Not really at all.
I think what we saw a lot of teams being like, oh, I don't want to pay that, so I'll just wait until the price goes down. And it's like, well, as long as we're still in the flat cap era, that price isn't. Because, like, even the GMs that had some space... all signed ridiculous contracts. What is it? Is it 15 or 18 teams have less than $1 million in cap space?
Yeah.
There's a handful that are still over, and it's like you're literally just making the problem worse. And then whenever you need to improve your roster, you can't. So is it just a bunch of teams saying that they can't win the cup? Because as good as Colorado was last year, I still think every single year for at least the last 5 or so years, there's realistically at least 10 teams that could have won the cup. So it isn't like it's so unobtainable that you shouldn't try to make some space to go for roster additions. I think a similar thing might be happening with the Vegas expansion draft. So many teams, we can get rid of these bad contracts. We'll just throw in some draft picks, a couple extra players, whatever. Vegas gets a Stanley Cup Finals appearance out of it, makes them look dumb. Seattle wanted higher prices or at least the same prices, and GMs are like, I'm not losing my job over that. It was adding in Smith for taking Marchessault, or the other way around, and that's literally two of Vegas's top 3 on their team for the first 2 or 3 years. So GMs didn't want to do that again. So I think what you're seeing is Bill Armstrong and other GMs like him took advantage of the cap space they had. And then it's like, well, I don't want to trade Shane Gostisbehere for nothing. I don't want to. So it's like, yeah, we're just going to not give you those assets. And okay, when your team's not that good, but they're not bad enough to go for a top 10 pick, have fun. And then it's like you have the fan bases that are like, oh, well, they're just going to take this bad contract. Why? The Coyotes are above the cap floor with still about $20 million in space. They can just save all that extra money and just roll with it.
Wait for Auston Matthews.
Yeah, there you go.
No, but I think it's kind of a mixture of things. So one being that the 2023 draft is projected to be a very, very, very good draft. So that really doesn't help. I think everybody is like realizing that Bedard is definitely going to be a next superstar in the league. So like teams are like, yeah, we're not gonna try to like sneak into the playoffs. We'll just try to like, get our 2% chance at winning Bedard, right? So that doesn't help. Another thing being that we saw a lot of creativity trades this offseason. So like two teams that I thought were absolutely going to get bent over by the Coyotes were Vegas and Montreal. And they were able to work a trade out between each other to get each other out of their dilemmas by trading Donatov and Weber, between the two teams. And trades like that really hurt the Coyotes' ability to kind of fleece teams for their picks. It also probably doesn't help that I think Bill Armstrong's kind of getting an MO for fleecing people. And you know what happens? Like, people get spooked and don't want to call and ask about prices and trades and stuff like that when that happens. It's the same thing that we saw with Yzerman, right? When he was in Tampa. Like, everybody's like, yeah, he's the boogeyman. Like, don't call him. don't pick up. Don't call him. Like, he'll fleece you. So, there could be a little bit of that as well going on.
So, at the very least, they did get some more... they did get a couple more picks. I think the goal had to have been acquire picks while maintaining as much cap as possible. And the reason I say that is because going into the trade deadline, it's going to be infinitely more valuable to be able to retain more money, to be able to take on bad contracts for the last year, just to free up space on their end. You get an extra third-round pick, extra second-round pick. So I think it's just literally, you know what? We're not going to, right now, we're not getting the same quality of trades we got last year. So let's just try to maintain as much cap space while still acquiring picks. And I think they did that just fine. The thing is, they also have to capitalize on that throughout the season. Like, you can't just, okay, we did this, and then do nothing. And also, don't just force trades. Like, one thing I like about, until the Chychrun trade happens, because it will, all right, unless... this rebuild, like they're competing for a playoff spot next year, not this year, next year. Unless they're back up to competing for a wild card spot that quickly, I don't see it really patching up with Chychrun. I think he's gone. Until I see the actual trade value for it, to see if he allows all the pick protections and all the stupid things we're seeing, I have full faith in what he's doing. And I like all the moves he's made so far, except for a couple like the player relations stuff, like the Connor Garland not calling him and the Lawson Krause taking it right down to the wire thing. So I'm like, a couple small things like that at the very least haven't gotten out of hand, but just keep an eye on. So as long as he capitalizes in the season, I think the goal is completely met. I'm just still hoping the team hits about 30 wins because I still want to see them improve. It's like, they're going to be just as terrible as they were last year. But I don't know. You give some of these guys more ice time. Are you going to have to trade Smith and or McBain? Because with how good they're looking as of right now, are they both going to have breakout years and have to be, messed with or traded in order to not get a couple extra wins? I don't think they'd really want to do that because if you're getting those good young assets, okay, let's talk extension. You don't just let them walk for nothing. So it's like, I just don't want to see us in a position where it's like, no, let's trade to actively get worse if we're playing well. Because with the amount of kids that are still going to have opportunities at good minutes, you're probably going to be surprised with how decent this offense is going to be. I'm still not going to project a playoff spot. It's too early. Kind of dumb. Love the memes, but it would be dumb to project that. But I'm still excited to see what a lot of the offensive players can take a step forward because I think it's going to be an exciting season. Whether you're good or not, I'm at least going to get to watch some decent hockey.
Yeah, and, just to go quickly back to the trade thing, like, don't be surprised if we see a few teams push a few contracts onto the Coyotes right before cap compliancy, which is, I believe, the start of the season. So, just a few teams out there. Luckily, some teams have been spared from cap hell because of players being injured, one of them being Vegas, because Robin Lehner is probably not going to be playing this season, I believe it was. And then also Washington kind of being kind of afforded some freedom with Backstrom being injured for almost all the season. So, like, a few of those teams are probably going to get off scotch-free. But a few that probably are going to struggle is just like Boston, Pittsburgh, just a few teams like that are just kind of skimming right over the top that might need to trade just one player to get back into compliancy.
And that's something as simple as here's a third-round pick, and let's say all those teams trade us one player just to comply, and we get at least a third or a fourth. You're looking at an extra 2 thirds and an extra fourth. That's assets you can use in the draft to move up. That can easily be a second right there, just depending on how you want to package up the 2 assets. I wouldn't complain about that whatsoever, because it'd probably be about $1 to $2 million contracts. It wouldn't be very much. We'd still have plenty of cap space.
Well, it really depends. So if you're wanting to get something bigger off, so I know a projection that we had for Pittsburgh was Zucker, Jason Zucker. Mm-hmm. Zucker? I don't remember how to say his name. But
you were about to say the Zuck.
Zuck. But he's at $5.5 million, right? But he's got 1 year left, so that's definitely a contract that you're willing to take on as the Coyotes. You know, what do you get out of that? I know Pittsburgh's prospect pool is kind of nearing empty. They do have their first and second round picks for the next 3 years, so would there be something there? Maybe 2 seconds or just 1 first or whatever it might be.
2024 or 2025 first. It'd be one of those two, because every team, and this is just coming from reporters and fans, so it can't be that far off for how the GMs feel with how good 2022's draft looked and still looks. I think we have some pretty good players coming up in the next couple of years. Yeah. 2023 looks better. So a lot of teams might just not be willing to move a 2023 pick. So
I don't think they are.
Oh, hey, if you wait an extra year, we'll give you the first. Take Zucker off our hands, or I guess a second this year and next year. Because I would say if I'm taking $5 million, I'm not taking anything less than 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Because you can turn that into a first round asset. So I'm that's just how I would look at it. So I would assume it's going to be the same. I wouldn't mind Zucker being on the Coyotes, because then I can get a cheap $80 Pittsburgh jersey. Because I hung it up. I got a Johnny Gaudreau for $60 or $70 on Untitled.com, because I'm
oh,
yes.
Very nice.
As soon as they go on sale, whenever the Kessels go on sale, I'm getting a couple. And I don't care for Kessel anymore, but that's a jersey I can wear, and people are going to recognize the player. It can get damaged, and I won't care.
That's true.
That's a good setup.
That's very true.
That's why I buy so many jerseys. It's like an extra medium I have right here for the old Reeboks. I bought it just so I could wear it guilt-free. I'm wearing it guilt-free as a sleeveless women's jersey.
Yep. Very true.
All right. Is there anything else you want to get into, or do we finally have an episode under an hour?
I'm going to quickly go off on some personal stuff.
All right, let's do it.
So let's just talk about some personal stuff over the week. I have something that I really want to talk about, which is a show that I watched. One, I did watch... Hold on, preface it. I did watch the Fallout thing that you sent me, which was very funny. Very ha-ha, and I appreciated him siding with Mr. House at the end. That was always a fun outcome for Fallout New Vegas. Number 2 is there's a show, an anime, that dropped on Netflix a week ago, 2 weeks ago? I don't remember. But I binged it because I loved it. It was the new Cyberpunk Edge Runner anime.
Was it good?
It was very good. So the only bad part was that it was done by a company called Trigger Studios. Anime? I don't remember. Trigger was the people who made it in Japan. And it kind of felt like they didn't know if their future was going to continue because they only were allowed 1 season by Netflix. I really hope that Netflix can give them a few seasons and they can actually sit down and hammer out some of the speeding problems, because as very good as it was, the biggest knock that I have was that it was fast. So each episode's 30 minutes and it's 10 episodes. So it's a pretty quick watch. But with that being said, the problem was that, oh my god, the first like 3 episodes was just like boom, 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 information after information after information. It was just like pounding you with information. And that very clearly felt like they wanted to get a story across, but they just didn't have the time. But the story that they did tell was great. I highly, highly, highly recommend anybody who's watching. You don't have to be a fan of video games to watch this. If you like cartoons or anime, it is very good. It is... Cyberpunk is effectively a city that's like end stage capitalism. It's like 2070s, and like everything's just like towers and automation and guns and violence, and yeah, it's a great like future dystopia kind of environment.
I love the game. I know a lot of other people didn't. I love the game, especially Keanu Reeves in it.
I adored the game's story. I thought I can agree and see where people are saying that the gameplay of the game was not very fun after the prologue, because you could tell like the prologue was the game that they wanted to make, and then like after the prologue it was just like kind of half completed, and they were just like, here, go do all the fetch quests to get to the story, which was not nearly as fun. But like the story and the gameplay that was in the prologue was, like, I think how they wanted the game to be.
All I know is that anything to do with Johnny Silverhand and all the corpos, I'm like, I was all for it. Like, especially because you get to essentially work with whoever you want to an extent, and also constantly attack corpos, and that really appeals to me. But
yeah,
that's why I liked it a lot.
There's a lot of references to the game. So the story only takes place 2 years before the story of Cyberpunk the game. So it's pretty close, and there's like key figures that show up from the game.
I'm hyped. You got me excited. I was going to sit down and watch it. I just never got around to it. I'll put it behind Digimon Fusion. I got to finish that I started watching years ago. Anyway, is anything else personal, or is it time for me to pay off a setup from last week?
No, I think you're good. That was the only personal information I had. The reason why, I guess I could say this, the reason why the podcast was recorded on Saturday is because I get to wake up at 4 a.m. tomorrow. Feels bad.
Feels bad, man.
Yep.
So, first off, we have to update the mullet thing. So my wife added me, and the hockey podcast immediately was like, no, the hell you will not. And so she talked to me, hey, you're not growing a mullet. I'm like, so what's it worth to you? I ended up getting Assassin's Creed the Ezio collection on Switch. So I can't grow a full-out mullet, but I can still grow it out and comb it and whatever like it's a mullet. But there is one exception. That exception is, so a couple days ago at work, I get a call. Don't recognize the number, let it go to voicemail. It's the dude that's in charge of the department that I applied for at Mullet Arena, that I didn't think I was going to get the call. It was just I'm going to put it on the pod, have a little bit of fun. I just scrolled through the jobs and found the one with the least requirements, and let's go ahead and let's go. So I got an interview this week, and well, wish me luck, boys, because if I end up getting the job, I don't think I'm going to very many Coyotes games as a fan.
Yeah, well, I will wish you luck. I know that you have been around the team for a long time in jobs related to the Coyotes, so you do have a little bit of a resume with the Coyotes, so don't knock yourself too much there. But yeah, good luck, my guy.
It's funny. I actually feel more bad about potentially leaving my job, because I'll explain after the pod. I have a pretty good shot at getting the job, but it's because I've already tried to leave my current job like twice, and I just like a day before I got this call, I just went to my boss's office and said, hey, I'm starting to get bored every other Thursday, because Thursday is payday, so payday, I'm still taking off. Hey, can I just get some extra hours, just because it's kind of getting boring sitting at home. So literally the next day, here's this job that's going to pay more, and more than I can justify asking for a raise from my current job. I could justify another $1 an hour. I can't justify a $3 an hour bump, but it's like I kind of feel bad because they've worked with me a lot. I get a lot of pretty cool perks and privileges in this job I got, but like the Mullet Arena job, if I get it, I don't know if I have it in me to say no. But I don't know how to explain that to my boss, being like, it started off as a meme. I didn't think I was getting a call back.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it is what it is. You know, you do what do what you love. Don't rely on any. Don't feel bad for any job, or you know, leaving responsibly. Don't just quit on them. Put in your 2 weeks, but.
Well, obviously.
Don't feel bad. Don't feel bad because you owe them nothing. I'll go on a little shtick here real quick. If you are getting a job in corporate America, don't feel bad for leaving said job.
Oh yeah, I support that. The only reason it feels different for me is because like I've had some personal things go on for the last couple of years, like being able to go home if I need to a little bit early, take a couple of days off to kind of like mentally recover from some of the stuff I was dealing with. Like they're also really cool people. It's kind of like a small town feel, like where I work. So it's like it's not family. That's cringe. That's a corporate thing. They try to get you to buy into it, but it's like it feels more like you're friends with everyone. So like my backup plan was to walk up to my boss and be like, "Hey, would you mind just firing me? Like I'm not going for unemployment. I have another job lined up. Will you just fire me?"
Well, they will not do that. I'll let you know a secret. Because then they will have to file you as somebody who can file for unemployment. So that will not happen.
Like you can mark it as I quit, but can you officially fire me?
They will just take you off the schedule and make you never return. That's what they will do. That's the secret to not being able to getting fired. It is we'll just cut your hours to nothing, and you're still with us, but you have to quit.
I'm just saying. I feel like if you could close that loophole of being like, you know, you could file for unemployment if you have less than 5 hours scheduled or something, and you at least get some hours scheduled. But
that would be, you know,
that would
a
be
good
too
idea.
Not pro-corporate, you know, that'd be a little too not in the favor of the corporation.
That would be too smart, and they will definitely not do that.
Anyways, so wish me luck. Like I said, I'll explain after the pod, but kind of nervous about it. Anything else is really just I've been spending stupid money on Digimon cards and these freaking Yu-Gi-Oh tins that I have bought 4 in 2 days. I paid for 2, my wife bought me 2, and I still haven't pulled the blue eyes out of it. I'm mad. I pulled Forbidden Droplets and Phoenix Enforcer, yet I can't pull blue eyes. I might just pay $30 for the single, but I want to pull it, damn it.
You degenerate.
Gosh darn filthy degenerate.
Alright, well, thank you so much for watching this episode. If you could give us a like or a follow or subscription on whatever platform you're listening to us on, please do, because if you made it this far, why are you this far in without, you know, giving us some more attention on a weekly basis? That's it. This is episode, obviously, episode Steve Sullivan. And we will see you later.
Go away.